What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be going over this little Riddim clip and how I made it, and specifically the sound design between the three different patches. It's two like metal bass sounds that are in faceplant, and then one serum sub. The clip sounds like this in case you didn't watch the short. And we're just going to really quickly go over like some of the details I covered in the short. We'll go over those really fast. We'll do the drums really fast. But before we get into it, I just wanted to really quickly plug my new sample pack, Third Wave Dubstep. It has 400 sounds, 100 future rhythm basses that are all pretty different, 100 post dubstep, so like Dariacore hyperflip basses, and 100 rhythm basses that are not like the old swampy stuff, but the new punchy gunny stuff. I'll just play one of each of those, and then also 100 glitch and effects samples. So that's one of the future rhythm ones. That's one of the post dubstep or Dariacore basses. That's one of the rhythm basses, and this is one of the effects samples or the glitch samples. So go buy the pack. It's on Gumroad. It's 15 bucks. If you're a Patreon subscriber, check there before you go buy it on Gumroad, because there's going to be a discount on Patreon. And also, I forgot to mention, so I'm adding this in post, I made a free version of the pack too, just like the Dariacore sample pack, except this time the free version is completely different sounds than the paid version. So if you go buy the pack, make sure you get the free version too. If you don't want to spend the money, go get the free version. It's completely different samples though, so you do want to get both, whether you get one or the other. So and yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So let me talk about these three bass patches here. We'll start things out. Let me mute this with just the basic sound design of each of these, and I'm not going to dive too deep because I think most of my audience is pretty well versed in production stuff. So I'm just going to cover the tips, the good stuff, the stuff that's useful and digestible. So I'm going to turn off all my post effects, and I'm going to show you how sucky the inputs are for this. So something that I've gotten into now that I didn't do so much early producing is put post effects before I start making the sound. So this is the first faceplant patch. What we have here is a little gun sound where I've used this to modulate the gain here. So this is gating my sound, and then I'm running a square wave through a low pass filter that's being plucked by, or actually that's just being modulated by this macro. So that's one of the macros that changes during this. It just sweeps in a low pass on that. So then the next thing, and this doesn't, this only moves when the macro gets changed in the track. Then we have this overtone scanner wavetable. This macro also adjusts a phase modulator that's going to this. So as you turn this up, it's changing the position of this. And if we like muted this, for example, so if I got rid of that, you'll see it's also changing the phase here, which is phase modulation kind of ends up sounding a little bit like FMing. So I'm gonna reattach that. So we have this so far, just like a little gunny type sound. And then I add a filter that's a bandpass that I'm using this pretty quick curve envelope here. So you can set up a curve by going here, doing this, change the stuff, and then do that, and then link it to whatever you want it to, right? That's how the modulations work in there. I think most of y'all know that. Then I added a nonlinear filter that just makes it a little more randomized, kind of, because when I add the pitch modulation on here, the mod wheel that's controlling the pitch right here in 24 semitones, so that means an octave up would be all the way up, an octave down would be all the way down, and the middle point, which is 50%, would be standard tuning. This lets me kind of like, as I change my mod wheel here, I get different little places that are like being accentuated by the biased high pass filter. So, and as you can hear, it kind of gives it like just a more like almost grainy textural sound. So then I add a compressor, pretty basic stuff, just kind of killing some of the transient, or killing some of the decay, which is increasing the transient. What else do I have in here? I also have a pitch drop that is just giving it the smallest thud. I could even like make that probably bigger. Yeah, it would have probably been better to make that bigger, but it doesn't matter. So the way that I made this though was not by doing this first, but the first thing that I did with this was add a patcher. And this is a patcher that basically takes an OTT, modulates the depth based off of the volume input, And so if I open this, you'll see as sound gets added to this, and I just did a patch tutorial on this, so I'm not going to explain it all. I'm just going to say what it does. As the sound from the Fruity limiter or the input signal gets sent into the Fruity P controller, it's just adding wetness, so it's creating a compression only when the audio is going through it. And then I just have the surface here where I can change the 3 different bands at the same time. So these 3 controls link to the 3 thresholds in here, and I can change them at the same time, which is one of them is pre-distortion and one of them is post-distortion. So I added that first, and then went in here and like did stuff. And it might even be better without the nonlinear filter. But basically did that and then sent it into a EQ where I'm cutting the sides out and increasing the mids. So now let's talk about the high layer here. What I have for this one, I'm going to do the same thing where I turn off all the effects. And I'm going to go even quicker with this one. So we just basically have a sample that I'm modulating. Again, the same pitch drop, so you can tell that I actually cloned this clip off of the other one. Modulating the gain with the same thing. We're modulating a couple filters in here, so just one filter. Then I added a non-linear filter again, kind of a theme with this. And this one is doing something good. So it's a non-linear filter on all pass mode here, and I'm modulating the cutoff again with the mod wheel. And it just almost adds like a little weird textural tail to it. And then I added a saw power chord, where I have a secondary group that's an analog thing with no output. So like if I turn this off, the saw isn't sending any volume. It's just as a modulation source for my power saw here. So you can link this to your phase and then link this bend clip by drawing this and picking the yellow thing there. It'll set that little equal sign up. And that means that when this is on, this modulation works. When it's off, this wavetable to phase offset does nothing, right? And so what that ends up doing is just giving it a totally brighter, weirder tone when that bend is on. So let's keep going in the patch here. So next I added a delay. And as you can see, I'm just, I have the feedback relatively high, and then I'm using the volume gate to add to that delay only when the sound source is going through, which just keeps me from having those super long tails. You could go with that, or you could even go with a mix, right? But let's just go ahead and do what I did in the first one in this one. So I'm going to turn the post effects on. We have an OTT, V clip, and an EQ cutting this, and then a Fruity send, which I'm going to leave off for now, because the Fruity send will come back in later. So with these 2 effects right now, we have this. And it's a bit louder than it should be. Why is it like that? Okay, this is why. All right, so, and then if I go into my lane 2 here, turn this on, I have a frequency shifter that has a little shift top. It just makes it a nice, it's like a nice Riddim effect. Don't go too far with that. Actually, it sounds decent. Usually, you can take it too far sometimes. And then I just added a phaser onto that to give it some width. So again, pretty mono sound, except for this little sample layer is adding some width. And then phaser comes in, makes it really wide. Now lastly, we have this filter. This is going to take all that volume away that I was saying, why is there volume? And I just boosted it with a 3-band EQ. So now I'm going to go in here, turn my volume back down. That's also probably why it was so loud. And we're sending it into an OTT-V clip. I already mentioned all that. We'll keep the Fruity send off. And then we'll just talk about the mix room real quick. So what we have here is a couple different effects. One is a Valhalla room that we'll come back to later, a convolver that I'm not going to probably talk about even. Then we have an EQ here. That one's just for a filter sweep and a little bit of shaping. Let me put both sounds on, because this is a mix bus here. We're sending both of these original 2 signals into that mix bus there. Then I send them through a compressor to glue it together, and a V-clip. So So that's the basis of how I made those two sounds. So now let's talk about the drums for like half a second. And I'm going to keep my synths turned relatively down for this so you can kind of get a better idea of what the drums are doing. So we just have the basic kick, clap, with a relatively long cymbal here. So if we did a shorter cymbal, also works okay, but I kind of like the flowiness that the longer cymbal added to this. Let's look at the clap for half a second in the mixer. All we did here, Valhalla Room. It's got a good amount of pre-delay. So just delays that signal about 20 milliseconds, which gives space for the clap to come in. I'm gonna go ahead and reset my mix there. Just kind of makes it splash a little bit moving forward. So once we get to this section of the drop, I bring in a reverse cymbal and do the double clap, the Riddim classic there. Turn my synths off so you can really hear this. And all I did with this one was clone the clap, turn the volume down a little bit, and also pitched it up. So just kind of helps add some variation moving forward. Then I brought in an offbeat hat. And I think that fully explains that. Okay, moving forward. So now merging the rhythm patterns, we'll skip that. Actually, no, this is worth saying. So what I did here, compositionally, I started this out as this number one pattern here, right? And I had the full long pattern. It was like this. And as you can see, this doesn't fit well right here. And it's because after I started this, I said, you know what? Let's repeat this. Let's go in here. We'll take this, slice it off, grab this, do this, bam, do a couple repetitions of that. And then like right here, maybe I'll have a new one that's, for example, like these two notes combined together. So I made a unique clip, pasted that in, did this, made alterations. Basically all I'm saying here is made alterations, made new clips, so now we have, right? And then just started like messing around and combining stuff, and then I was like, oh, well, I had that thing that I was trying to do earlier. Let's see if that works here. Added that in here, right? Right, so did that whole process here. And then just took those clips that I had, these ones that I kind of have like different highlighted colors, did alterations to any of them that have like a new color, and then just took all those clips and merged them together using Alt-G or Control. Was it Control-G or Alt-G? Control-G. Yeah, so Control-G merged them. And the reason that I merged them is then now I could do like two different drops, right? Make two different, an A drop and a B drop, or like drop one, drop two. Make one of these unique, and then I can go in here and do other alterations. So like for here, one of the things that I felt worked nicely, and if I was going to make a full track out of this, this is what I'd do. I'd go in here and take my top synth and like pitch this one down sometimes. So like let's say it would be every offbeat, and then maybe even have one that's pitched up. Right, just gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to in those cases, and like take what is an idea and turn it into a song. So, man, this tutorial is going better than I thought it would. Sometimes these are harder to explain and stuff. So I already explained this in the short. I'll just show what we're doing, what we did here. I just took the two different macros that I already talked about, and as you can see with them, just gives it a little different tone to like break the drop up a little bit. If I was going to do this for an actual track, I may even go in and like add, or I would actually definitely go in and add way more variation to these to just break up the monotony of the track. Because I would say this one, if there's one gripe I have with this project right here, I'd say it's a little monotonous. It works, but it's not really groundbreaking in a way that I feel like is like something that's like pushing rhythm forwards. This is like a formula that you can follow and use, but you want to add your own flair and spice to it, or whatever that is. So now we have the send on the master. So this is the coolest trick. Hopefully you picked this up from the short, if you saw the short of it. And all this is here is a fruity send that I've put onto my metallic layer. This. So without it, we're getting a lot more like loudness out of the sound. But with it, when it's layered with the first bass patch, it's like more mid-heavy and less wide, we get this, which is, I just think, a really cooler result than like the static, not moving, changing first version. So if we turn it off, a little louder, but if we turn it on, which is more rhythmy. I don't know the way to describe that than just, it's a cooler way to do it. You don't always need to do that, but like you can always add that to a sound that you're like, this is cool, but it's not really doing it for me anymore. Maybe I listened to it too many times. Just another trick for the Arsenal. So last trick for the old Arsenal is adding the Valhalla room. This is with full wetness, so this is the room being all the way on. You play this and then do that because it's going to automate it, so it's going to try and take over. Yeah. Right, so that's just the wet room, and as you can kind of hear, it's just making it a little more metallic. So then when I turn it to automate instead of like full wetness, we get basically our offbeat hits are going to be more metallic than our starting hits. So that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Hopefully you got something useful out of that. I'm going to put the project file for this up on Patreon this month, so you'll have that if you're a patron, and you can use this for whatever you want to use it for. I'm also going to render a bunch of different variations of basses out of this and add them to the free pack, so the free pack will be up there with a bunch of good stuff. And also the free pack is different sounds from what the purchasable pack is. So if you get if you pay for the pack, also get the free one because it's just more sounds to add to it. And so yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.